Hi everyone and welcome to Talk Together. Thank you very much for joining us for an evening of talking about Dungeons and Dragons. I am Rebecca Hare. I will be hosting tonight and I am, it's very exciting, chatting to Mike Dopson, who you can see here. So first things first, Mike, do you want to introduce yourself? You're quite new to Roll Together, so there's lots we don't know about you. Satisfy our curiosity, introduce things.
So I'm Michael, or Mike, whichever you prefer. And yeah, like Rebecca said, I'm very new to it all. I'm one of the Northerners as well. So I'm not down in London or the various areas like most of the casts. But yeah, I own my own business, but I'm a full-time nerd on the side. I like to mess about with cartography, and I actually work in a bar as a in-house DM as well. So I sort of have my feet and fingers and toes in everything.
That is awesome. I have thousands more questions. So hopefully we'll get to some of them as we go through. So tonight, you know the drill by now. We are going through some questions, some anecdotes, maybe some tangents, knowing us. And as for the questions I ask, the dice will decide. I have a lovely level up D20 here, and that will decide which question poor old Mike has to answer. Before we kick off, some admin. This stream will run for an hour or thereabouts. We are delighted to be sponsored by Hero Forge, Ultra Pro and Elderwood Academy, and supported by D&D Beyond, Warriors of Waterdeep and Level Up Dice. We are Roll Together RPG on all social media, so you can find us pretty much anywhere, I think. And as always, a huge thank you to our D20 Club on Patreon, our dice heads. They are awesome people. Join them. Our shows are all available as podcasts. Just search Roll Together RPG on your favorite podcasting app, and you can catch up on everything on YouTube as well. I think that's pretty much all the intro out the way. So shall we kick off and roll the dice for our first question?
Thanks.
Brilliant. RC, you can say I can't pull it off. I'm not as cool as she is. Right. First one is a number 10. And that means I ask you, what do you like in a DM?
What I like in a DM? I think it's become a bit of a saying in the D&D community of the yes and. And I'm sure I've heard Chris mention it and now mention it before, but like any DM that as soon as you throw something so wacky and so irritating, and the DM's just like pulling their hair out, but instead they just refocus and go yes and figure out an amazing way to make it work, whether that's a deep, dark role-playing game or if it's something that's a little bit more structured, depending on the DM that you've got, but they're always willing to make something work out. I mean, that's my favorite thing to watch is you can see in their eyes straight away that they're like, oh no, what have you done to me? But immediately they just figure out a way to make it work and keep the pace going and stuff like that. I just think it's a great creative writing skill, let alone just being a DM.
Yeah, you're right. It's brilliant. I think it's really useful in players as well, because it means you can try something completely batty. And if there's another player at the table who sees that and goes, awesome, then I will do this to help, to join in, to feed off that. It's nothing worse than being with a player and you do something and they're like, no.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Although on the other end, I do appreciate, because one of my pet peeves is when you ask if you can do something and then the DM's just like, yeah, roll a D20 with the associated stat or whatever, and then you roll, I don't know, nat 20 or something, or some ridiculously high roll, and they're like, yeah, no. Like making someone roll with no purpose makes no sense to me. I'd much rather a DM just be like, you know, between me and you, that ain't gonna work. So just quickly.
Yes. If you know, I have set at DC and it is impossible for you to match it.
Yeah, I just don't think that. But it's more patronising to the players than anything.
Yeah, that's fair.
Lots for them to fail.
Do you DM?
Yes, I've DM'd all like home stuff, and then I like I briefly mentioned, I
did. I was listening, honest.
I house DM for a bar, like a geek bar, up here in the north, which, yeah, it's a great pleasure. I've been blessed with some fantastic players there as well. But you do meet some such different, fantastic people as well, being able to work in a public forum instead of just the people you choose to play with, which is at home. You know, you walk in, and I've got a regular group I'm running, Curse of Strahd at the moment, which, especially coming into Halloween, has been great sort of aesthetic. But you don't get to pick who turns up because they're paying. You're not, you know, it's not just some friends and you're conning them in with a bag of Doritos. It's a group of people that are here for a service. And you get such a stunning, and so far, I've just been blessed. You know, I'm sure we've all read the D&D horror story, Reddit and stuff like that, but I've been absolutely blessed to have some stunning players that are just in it for the fun. But I guess as well, they are paying, so they want it to be everything and anything they want it to be.
Yeah, fair. Do you have a particular favourite memory as a DM, a favourite moment or something at your table?
I've had a couple. A one-shot that turned into a full campaign.
Cool.
They were supposed to die at the end of it. It was supposed to be just a really fun, because I wrote Homebrew World, and it was my first chance to sort of, I just thought, right, I could do a quick one-shot with the lore and a little bit of sort of fun bits placed just so I could discover whether I enjoyed what I put together. And they played, and they were supposed to do this in huge, they were trying to save a city that had been sieged, and all this stuff. And it was great fun, but the players made these crazy characters that were all interconnected together, so they all knew each other, and ended up they just loved the relationship they'd created, plus the concept that it went from they were supposed to die to they ran away. And they were like, we want to play more. And I was like, oh yeah, I reckon I could stretch this, you know, a couple more sessions for a bit of fun. And then, it turned into a full campaign and ended, you know, in all classic ways with a big bad in a huge battle for the sake of the planet. And it just slowly turned into this absolutely stunning thing. That was such a pleasure to run because it was so off the cuff. Everything after that was just like, it wasn't something I'd had in my head for years and years, or a full campaign that I've had with other stuff. It was literally like every episode, the week after session, the week after, I was like running around like an idiot trying to put something together to continue what this was doing, and trying to because I'm a sucker for foreshadowing and all that stuff. So I'm like whacking in all these random irrelevant bits of information. I've decided whether it's actually going to come out to anything. But it was just great in the end. Have you done much DMing yet?
Never, not once. I probably will one day because it feels inevitable. But no, I think Ed has explained it much more eloquently than I have. But I'm an actor, not a director. I love being a part of storytelling with other people to create something. I feel if I had to pull all the strings, I would lose all the magic and I wouldn't be very good at it.
Yeah, I had that for a long time, to be fair, because I'm incredibly dyslexic. You know, and so school was never fun when it came to literature and stuff like that. Anything that was involved even the slightest bit of reading, I really struggled with. But then my mum had a great idea and started getting me audiobooks.
Oh, amazing.
The real book in front of me. So what I'd do is I'd read along with the book, and slowly I found an absolute fascination with fantasy stuff. But the actual idea of writing and everything like that just seems so impossible to me, because I could barely spell the word because. And, you know, at one point I had a nightmare. But through the online forums and looking at ways that you can be supported when you have this sort of stuff when it comes to reading and writing, you just push and push and push. And I never thought, I started playing and I was like, nah, DMing is not for me. I can't write a full paragraph without having a mental breakdown, let alone, you know, running an entire homebrew wrote world. But it's crazy how things change as you develop. And some
that's such a good way of thinking about it, because I've always thought of DMing as like, well, it's like the playing, the acting, but with less of the emotional investment. So why would I want to? But actually, I've always loved reading. I was one of those kids who bunk off PE and hide in the library.
Yeah.
And I quite like writing. So maybe I should think of it like storytelling. And that actually makes me want to have a go more. So
yeah,
congratulations, or it's all your fault. We'll blame it on you when I first DM and it's a disaster.
You'll love it. I think once you see the reactions and people interacting with something that you put down in a book or a notebook or you wrote up on a laptop, and then you see people interacting with it, ruining it or making it better, it is just a fascinating thing, because I believe that when it comes to a campaign, a DM writes 10% of the storyline. You know, they're the plot points, but the actual players, they're the creatives that truly create the storyline between them. I don't think really, in some ways, DMing is hard, but it's also easy because you don't actually have to do much of the work. The players just do it for you. You're just facilitating the creativity.
I have a friend who never plans. He just waits for us to do something stupid, then goes, cool. Yeah, therefore the floor opens.
Yeah,
he's managed it for years, and at some point it's got to shoot him in the foot. But for now, it's brilliant.
Yeah, well, if you're that quick, then I can't claim to be that quick. I have to at least pretend to figure out what the players may do, and don't get me wrong, they always do exactly what you don't expect them to do.
Of course, it's the rules.
But, yeah,
amazing. Shall we roll the dice again and have another one?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, a 16. Dooby-doo. Where are my questions? I don't have them memorized. I'm very sorry. Oh, I like this question a lot. If you could make yourself in D&D, what would you be?
I don't know. It's a great question. I feel like I would be a bit of a basic bitch and be like a straight fighter or something. But I'd like the idea of being like a sorcerer with something inside them that they have got no control of. They don't have to study. They don't have to try. They're just like explosion. And but yeah, I feel like I would be just like a bog standard fighter. Maybe a tickle of Eldritch Knight in there if I can figure out how magic works. But yeah, I don't think I'd personally be that. I'll just feet up later on. Just get as many feats as possible later on and figure it out for that.
Yeah, there are ways of making fighter not at all basic. I have to say, I've never played a fighter. I need to. It's one of the ones left on my list. There are so many versatile ways of mucking about with it from what I've heard.
My absolute favourite thing is taking a class that's not supposed to be something like that and just doing that. So I do it all the time with wizards and sorcerers. I leave the stats and just accept what I've got, feet up with like mobile and tough, and then just turn them into a melee character. Cool. And just totally like break what the class is supposed to be and turn them into something a little bit different. So I feel like that's something that could work quite well for me, as if I was a fighter in the Forgotten Realms, I'd just be a fighter and then just start dipping myself into everything.
Nice. I do love mucking about with the class. I don't know if you watched, what was it called? Gloom Falls on Baldur's Gate, but our wizard there, Ashra Beckett, played by the wonderful George, he got himself, it was like an amulet of health and then a bunch of like life drain, sort of necrotic-y, slightly dodgy spells. And suddenly he was walking into combat with twice as many hit points as the tank. Yeah. It was like, how do we have a wizard tank? What? How? And it was the only time I've seen it played like that. And it was so much fun.
No, it's very funny. I mean, I don't mind cheesing builds slightly, but I know there's a couple of things you can do where you can make your character, like in the Blade Singer, you can make your own character impossible to hit. And there's other stuff, and that can be really funny. But also, if you go so far, it almost restricts any chance of failing a little bit sometimes.
Oh, I see. As in, if you try something and you're like, this isn't fun for me.
Yeah, well, yes, but also like all of a sudden you're like, I don't struggle through this. My character isn't actually taking any hits, or they're just sailing through and being this powerful hero without any consequence. I'm sure I was talking to Chris a little bit about it, but I have to have a minor stat on my characters.
Yeah.
I have to, otherwise it's boring to me. I need to be rubbish at something, and then you can lean on that and it creates a lot more intrigue into what you're doing. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with someone that wants to be great at everything and they want their character to be this true heroic powerhouse, and all great, fantastic. I love that idea as well. But for me, I have to be shit at least a couple of things.
Yeah, me too. Or it's just no fun. So you're playing Jamie in Niall's campaign. What's Jamie's massive flaw? What's her dump stat?
It's strength on this one, which is again a little bit basic for a sorcerer, but she's also not particularly wise.
Okay.
Because I thought that fit the idea of her never being out in the real world.
Yeah,
So
that's nice.
not strong, which doesn't hurt too much as a sorcerer, hexblade, but the wisdom was a big one I wanted to keep low because she doesn't know what the world's about. She hasn't got any real world knowledge. She doesn't know how to speak to people.
Yeah.
In that context. She's got the fake charm.
Yeah, I was just thinking that because obviously she's a sorcerer. She's got massively high charisma, but you play that in a really interesting way of she can be deceptively and manipulatively and possibly charming, but she's not got that like easy friendship, everyone loves me that you can quite often see with a maxed out charisma. Yeah,
because that interpretation of your stats is really interesting as well, just in general. Like just because you've got no intelligence doesn't mean you're stupid. In my eyes, you could have a 20 wisdom and a -2 intelligence, and you could come across as a very well put together, intelligent person. But the intelligence isn't about book learned. It's about the fact that if someone said to you, can you put that shelf up? You can look at it, look at the shelf and put 2 and 2 together and put it straight up, because it's something that isn't about being intelligent. It's about using your hands and putting things together. Like I feel like all of the stats can be interpreted in whatever way you'd like your character to use them.
Yeah, for sure. I have a bard and her dump stat is intelligence, but she is whip smart. She also uses a whip, so it's very appropriate. But she dropped out of school aged 8. She doesn't know anything about books. She can't read very well, but she can read people and situations and scenarios and always has a cool head and knows what to do. But yeah, other people would play 8 intelligence as sort of, I hit things, which is also really cool and really fun, but I had no interest in doing that.
It's a perfectly understandable interpretation of it, but it doesn't have to be the only way, which I do.
Yeah, for sure.
Do like, I mean, Constitution is probably the only one that I'd struggle to, I don't know, interpret in a different way, unless you can think of a way to do it.
Just wander around sneezing all the time.
Yeah, you just have to
dump con. I never want to dump con because it's not at all flashy or interesting, but it does keep you alive.
It's handy. It's very handy.
And so we talked about class a lot. If you were building yourself, would you go for just basic human? Or would you be slightly more out of the box?
When you imagine it, it's usually human, isn't it? Because I feel like that's like an automatic.
Oh no, in my head I'm an elf.
Ah, very nice.
I just think very highly of myself, clearly.
I don't know. I like the idea of being a dwarf.
Nice.
I like the idea of it. I don't necessarily know if I would be, but I like the idea of being a dwarf.
I could see you as a dwarf. Maybe it's just the beard.
Yeah, it's a bit scraggly and messy.
I think it's lovely. Shall we have another question?
Yes.
Amazing. Right, let's see. More Rebecca rolls. 18.
18.
Oh, and I have no idea what your answer to this will be, so I'm very interested to hear it. What is the best villain you've ever faced in a game?
There's one that came into my head, but this is from 3.5, so this was ages and ages and ages ago. But there was it was a simple. Oh, actually, I don't know if I could tell you that because this has actually got to do with maybe what Niall's doing in the Eternal Army. Because you have spoilers for the Eternal Army. For people at home, how do you know Niall? What is going on? How can you have spoilers for our campaign that I don't know? Me and Niall discovered, and I know Niall played once or twice before, but me and Niall discovered D&D roughly around about the same time, playing 3.5. So a lot of this stuff is actually like an homage to what Niall's very first campaign. Now, don't worry, he's changed loads of it. A lot of it's very, very different. Just from like the stuff we've actually discovered so far, a lot of it's like, this is different. So that's really good, because I know now wouldn't take me into something if I felt like I knew something I shouldn't know. Mm-hmm. There's more of just like that wholesome, like, oh my God, it's that character from like 7-8 years ago, or however long it is now. And I'm like, it's a nice, sweet little, oh, that's really cool that they're back. But there was a baddie in that I really thoroughly enjoyed, but I don't think I'll say anything just in case. But I don't. Luckily, a lot of it's changed, so I probably wouldn't have spoiled anything. But baddies.
We'll have to have you back after Niall's campaign, and you can tell us more about it.
We can talk about that one. Yeah, let's we'll placeholder.
Pin in that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Though I do want to know, did you play Jamie in this original 3.5?
No, I actually played a dump stat intelligent barbarian.
Yeah.
Who was delightful. He was like the most obnoxiously supportive barbarian who came across as this horrible, I just want to fight everything character, but was actually really sweet and cared about everybody.
That's
but
really
just
lovely.
loved the scrap. So it got him in trouble a lot. But just as classic a barbarian as you can come, a stupid baby.
That's really sweet, though. You can play that. People can play that so well. I always think, we used to panic so much about, I must find something new that no one's ever done before. It's like, nah, the stereotypes are there for a reason. They're really
good. Of course, yeah. And I didn't know any better either way. It was like my first ever character, so I was like, I'm going to play this. And yeah, your first characters always hold a little place in your heart, though, don't they? That's why you can always remember them.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think if there's any other good baddies. We've had a couple. Yeah, we'll come back to that one.
Put a pin in it, and we'll clearly just teasing for your next interview.
Because now all I can think about is that one, and I can't pick out any.
It's very canny. It's making sure the audience come back. Well, let's have another one. For goodness sake, 17.
17.
How do you feel about fudging rolls?
Age-old question.
The age-old question.
Depends on the person for me. So in general, I'm a big believer in holding true, but I also do believe people have bad days. And, if someone's having a bad day or they're not obviously in it, and then you're just battering them, or there are characters about today, and you can say they're just totally not in a position to have that happen to them that day or whatever, I won't do it. I'll either think of a clever narrative way to save them, or just maybe that just doesn't this. Let's not do that to you today. I mean, I do believe in character death. I think it's a fantastic way to push storylines and stuff, but I'm not a huge fan of death for no reason. Although that is kind of real world sometimes. And it can be a shock factor that's effective, but not to the point where you're upsetting someone. You're there to have fun. So that's generally when I will. I think maybe once or twice when the players have either met the baddie or the big bad, in classical terms, very early on, like when they're level 1 or 2, and they try to do something very silly. I might just not even roll them. They just effectively put their paw on their head and just go, yeah, no, let's not go down that path. I've done that maybe once or twice where they've tried to turn what is supposed to be an interesting meet between the big endgame bad and the players, and then they just decide to go like throw sticks at it, and you're just like, yeah, no, this isn't going to go well for you. Let's just.
Thank goodness for the kind DM. I had one of these really recently. Half our party had accidentally walked into the lair of super big bad Archmage, and the other half came charging in, ready. We're like level 5, came charging in to attack ridiculously powerful Archmage. And the DM was like, I cannot make this any clearer. Half your party are poisoned with a spell that only the Archmage has the antidote for. If you somehow win this combat and kill the Archmage, half your party will die. you probably won't win the combat.
Yeah.
And then you'll all die. And a couple of our party just didn't quite listen or hear it, or, you know, with the adrenaline, and like, haha. And so bless him, our DM was like, clearly the Archmage was tired from a long day of teaching. He only has a few spell slots left. He wants to play with you another day. He's going to dimension door out of there, leaving the antidote somewhere in the office. It was like, oh, if our DM was anything other than the sweetest man in the world, we're all so dead. TPK.
Yeah, I do appreciate a DM that will stand to their guns as well. I'm a bit softer on people sometimes, but sometimes if they push too far, then actions, consequences, you know?
I think if this had, like you said, meaning, if it had any value in killing one or all of us, but it was just, we hadn't played for ages because of lockdown. We were all so excited, and a couple of them got a bit gung-ho because it was our first combat. I didn't quite listen to the warning side. So I think it's like, I can't just TPK because they got excited to be playing again. I can't do that, which was very sweet. Do you feel different about fudging rolls as a player than as a DM?
Yeah, as a player, hold true to what you're doing. I think it's as easy as that. I don't know. You know, a nat 1 or a nat 20, as awesome as they are, I think they create a very interesting contrast in the character. Like I said about giving yourself disadvantages, the 1 is there for a reason and the 20 is there for a reason. So if you can find, you know, if you just embrace the role, you know, I mean, God, I've played games where I've just nat 1 after nat 1 after nat 1 after nat 1, and it just turned into this absolute hilarious joke. And if you just keep embracing that, and I find if you give even a nat 1 great energy, all the players if they start rolling badly, or if they have a situation that doesn't go their way, they almost start to embrace that attitude, because if you're the one that's truly getting battered on because you're rolling so badly, but you're just smiling and cackling away, people are just like, well, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. This is great. And it's infectious. And I feel like if you can, as a player, encourage everybody else to have a good time, you'll do okay. Don't get me wrong, everybody still has bad days where just like, oh, just give me a good roll, for God's sake. Yeah. You know, nobody's perfect. You can find it frustrating. But yeah, as a player, just take them for what it is. Yeah. As a DM, there's slight leeway.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder if it ties into creating a character that has some weaknesses and some light and shade. If you're playing super OP mega hero, and then you keep rolling that ones and missing things, I can imagine that just being frustrating if you're playing a character whose only job is to be awesome. Whereas if you're playing a character who it's canonical that they are pants at these things, then you can lean into the nat 1 a bit more.
But it's the creation of, it's the same for a DM in certain ways. You know, if you have a big bad and they're like, you have a big moment where as the DM, you need them to successfully do this, whether you need the players to successfully to fail a roll so you can slow them, or you want to do something so you can do your big bad monologue, and then all the players succeed and they're just like and flipping you off, and you're like, I can see why you'd want the big bad to totally succeed on that, in that same thing of the hero. I am a hero, so I must be amazing, and the DM's like, the big bad, like, I am the big bad, so I must be powerful and destroy you or whatever. Yeah. Sometimes it can be very frustrating for the DM as well when the players are just like, you know, totally just everything bouncing off their head because you can't get it right. Yeah,
I can see that would be a pain. As a player, that just makes me gleeful, but I can see why I would wind up a DM quite a lot.
Yeah, if you can embrace it, and you don't have to create it in a way of total failure. You can, one of my favorite things to do as well as a DM is if the players are doing incredibly well, you don't diminish how well they're doing by making them comically fail. You almost adapt it to, even if the big bad rolls on that 1, make it so it's because the players have done something to the baddie, not the baddie's failed. Because that almost feels like you're cheating the players out of what they're trying to do, which is beat them. It's a nicer way sometimes to make them not feel like, oh, we only won because the baddie fell over.
Yeah.
it make them feel like it's because of their actions that makes the failure more effective sometimes as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good skill, because if you are canonically fantastic at this, if you're a bard and you have dumped all your points into performance and you are just in universe the best singer in this town, and then you roll a nat 1, it's just like, oh, you sing badly. It's like, well, why? I love it when a DM, Chris actually does this magnificently well, in this exact circumstance. I think way back when in Baldur's Gate Framed, Viorica the Bard rolled, which you've heard voiced by Niall in our campaign.
Oh, I actually listened through yourself, Ed, Barda.
Gosh, in Seekers of Elturel.
Yes, nice. I very enjoyed it. It was one of my favourite shows, actually.
Oh, thanks. It's one of my favourites.
It was just the most wholesome. Well, I don't know what other words. Wholesome is the only true word that I can think of. It was just delightful, the entire thing of how I couldn't believe how quick you guys as players just seemed to just like slot together as a party and become so close. It was really lovely to watch. Also, sort of magic, slightly, because with ours, it's sort of like
we all hate each other. It's amazing.
We went from that to just like explosions.
I should clarify: as players, we all really like each other. Our characters are not so sure.
But I also believe it's absolute stunning character growth for Veracity to explore two totally different. But it's just really enjoyable to see her be able to go through that. I think it's really interesting, especially for people that have had the pleasure of listening to both of them, to see that. Because, I mean, we have seen in the chat that people are very excited to see Veracity back, which was really nice to see as well.
It gave me a warm, fuzzy feeling. I was very excited to bring Veracity back. She is my favourite. But that was a huge tangent. What was I thinking? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so that was Viorica's second campaign. He popped up in Framed and did exactly that, I think. He was giving a performance and rolled a nat 1. And Chris fantastically was like, you still sing well. This is what you've spent your entire life training to do.
Yeah.
You as a professional know it's really not your best and you're not happy with it. Which I really like as a way of doing a failure that's not just like, ha 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 ha, you suck.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's a special skill to have, like you say, with certain people. And sometimes if it is funny, you can just have them fail, don't get me wrong. But sometimes if you don't want to totally, like, say, destroy everything about the character. But I do also like the rule of, and this is a Pathfinder thing, I believe. I've not played Pathfinder properly, but I like the idea of under a non-stressful situation, you take 10. So instead of just rolling and it's either a success or not, you take 10 minutes and succeed. If you are very good at that thing, I do it in all my games. If you're doing something like a rogue lock picking, unless it is a particularly special lock or described as such as a very complicated, intricately made thing that's specifically going to stop a rogue from getting in. If the rogue just says, I like to take 10, they can just slowly work their way through the lock and unlock it. I don't think if you've got the skill, the proficiency, or even the expertise, you're going to get through that lock, whether the lock likes it or not, or the roll system,
I really like that as a system. That is a really nice one. Yeah, because it makes a little bit more sense of why someone who spent their entire life training for something can suddenly not do it right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes it just doesn't track in my mind.
Yeah.
But if the situation arises where they need to be quick or the pressure's back on, that's when it will return straight back to a roll.
For example, when Protea is asked to come up with a name for our party and Niall pulls out the card that means she fails the skill check.
It's funny. I don't know. I'm undecided where I'm just going to have Jamie embrace that name or feel very uncomfortable about it.
I have embraced it. Veracity has not.
It's there to stay. I feel like we need to accept that one at least.
I think so. Oh, Hannah plays Protea so beautifully.
Oh, fantastically.
Oh, it's a gift.
It's so intriguing. All of the players, actually, they've all got such different things going on. Because I nearly made a comment of, oh, everybody, you know, in their own ways been having a great time, or they're not, you know, just bumbling through and not really having anything. And I'm just like, no, everybody's got something going on.
Yes, there's no one where you're like, they're fine.
Yeah. His tentacles rip out of Jamie. Fine, everything's fine.
I have no idea how I ended up with Veracity in the middle of an edgelord party, but I am here for it. It's beautiful.
It's good fun. I'm enjoying, and feel like I'm getting my feet with Jamie more now. Because I was finding RP quite difficult with her, because I was like, I was finishing sentences with like, not really knowing sort of where things naturally finish with her in conversations, where if she had the confidence to end the conversation and move on, or just start dragging it out. But I'm almost like, I might embrace the are we done yet?
Not gonna lie, I thought it was a deliberate choice and a really good one.
Yeah, it was more of that's Mike being lost, trying to figure out what the hell he's doing, but I feel like it kind of works with her just not understanding how to end a conversation.
I think you do it beautifully. For me, the moment where Jamie really clicked into place in my head was when you druid crafted that lovely little black flower with all those skulls, and my brain went from cool edgelordy sorcerer warlock, ooh dark, into oh, this is Jamie, cool, and she's fantastic. You do such a good job.
Yeah, I like throwing in those little snippets of life to her to try to show that, like you say, she's more I feel definitely the nail painting with Hannah's character Protea was just really delightful, because Hannah / Protea, I think, understood that it wasn't a moment of RP that the character was looking for. It was a moment of just companionship after what was an incredibly traumatic thing for her, that she's hiding, or she thinks she's hiding, as Malice is on a mission to get everybody to help her, whether she likes it or not. But that was a really nice moment, and Hannah definitely embraced and knew exactly what that was to be. It wasn't some moment of forcing answers out of Jamie. It was a moment of, okay, let's just be in his company. I'm scared of you, but we'll be in each other's company.
Yeah. I think Hannah has a gift I've never quite seen anyone else do in quite the same way, of playing a really insensitive character really sensitively.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
It's really interesting. It's intimidating for me, because I wouldn't say I am a creative, but I'm not a creative in a sense of professionally. You know, yourself and everybody, you all work in very performance and creative industries, and I'm a gardener. I play with flowers, so like I did find it very intimidating at first, because I was coming in and I was meeting people who were introducing themselves as voice actors or this, or I mean, obviously I've been around Niall a very long time, so I'm used to the fact that he's an actor, but I did find like I almost didn't fit in, because I was coming into this place of like, I didn't do drama at school. I didn't grow up in this side or even go into the industry, but I found the love of D&D and performance through that side, it's been very beautiful. And now having the pleasure to be able to work with people, like roll together and stuff like that, it's almost, if you asked me a couple of years ago, oh, do you think you'd be doing like stream shows and stuff like that? But nah. I'll DM for my friends, but that's the most you'll get out of me. But now, you know, I love it.
Good. And are you feeling you fit in a bit more now we've played a few?
It was quite funny, because I was quite nervous when I first started with the one shot, the Wizard of Oz. There we go. My brain took a full stop then. I was really nervous about playing with people so brand new, but then I said to myself, well, you know, you've DM'd for people in a bar like that you've never met before, but I should just see it as playing a game with friends. And when I sort of tried to adapt my mind to just playing with friends and not focusing on the fact that there is a load of fantastic people watching us, yes. And just sort of like, sorry, I'll acknowledge you in a little bit. I'm just going to pretend you're not there for a little bit. I found myself more relaxed. And then I did just start to see you guys as playing with friends and not a cast putting on a performance. Because that's what I said to Nat. I was like, you know, it's weird playing in a cast. And I was like, well, don't see it like that. Just see that you're playing with friends and you won't be bothered about the fact that you're being overly conscious about putting on a performance or making sure you hit a certain note that you've had for your character, or making sure every single little inch of your backstory is explored. It doesn't matter, because, you know, there'll be stuff in all of our backstories that really, you know, as delightful as it was to write at the time, probably might be irrelevant to what we're doing right now. And it's just sort of accepting to just play a normal game instead of turning it into something that it'll just seem really fake in the end, I feel. And the watchers, the viewers would see that straight away. If it was just this forced, really uncomfortable thing.
Oh, heck
not
yeah.
that I'd mind someone being uncomfortable, don't get me wrong, but it'd be more natural. I think it's much more pleasurable to listen to / watch to.
Yeah, for sure. And this, as someone who does both, streaming definitely feels to me a lot more like playing a home game than it does at all like going to rehearse a theatre show, or, you know, because, yeah, you get to hang out with friends and play D&D, and then you just have to accept there are some fantastic people who decide to give up their time to watch you, which I still can't quite get my head around, but it's very nice that they do.
Yeah, it boggles my mind. I'm just here to have fun.
And I think all of us who are professional actors with Roll Together have said till we're blue in the face that we are so grateful we aren't all professional actors, because then it would just turn into all of us vying to be the most charismatic, charming one in the spotlight. And it'll be
That's true,
awful. Healthy mix is good.
But it's fascinating, the creative spaces you all come from, I have to say, because you just get so many different angles, which is really fascinating. And I'm sure Chris and the team and Em are all just so grateful to have so many different people in this creative space working in this quite big group, really, of creatives.
There's quite a lot of us now, yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm a baby in the... There's like 37 players or something?
I don't actually know.
There's a crazy lot of us all being fantastic.
It is lovely to chop and change. Like, yeah, bringing the same character to two such wildly different campaigns. And even like G was in both Seekers and in this one, but playing such a completely different character. I love the versatility and variety it gives you rather than playing with the same people. No matter how brilliant they are, every single week. I love being able to chop and change. We've gone for a really long time without me rolling the die. Shall I roll the die?
We could do, or we could talk about.
I reckon we could spin it out for the rest of the hour without rolling another die, but maybe we should stick with the mechanic. This is another high roll. Surprise, surprise. It was a 15. Where do you start when making a character?
It's always got to be the idea. Although I am a bit of a sucker for being influenced by whatever I'm watching at the time. So like, watching The Witcher. Then I created a character that was pretty much The Witcher without realising. And then a couple of sessions into playing the character, I went, I've just created The Witcher. I'll just change the name. So yeah, sometimes it is literally just like a bing, and then I realise it's connected to whatever I've been watching at any time. But just anything, I just like try to think of an idea. I do like multi-classing, even if it is totally like not min-maxed. If I think a cool multi-class sort of sits together nicely with the character idea, I'll just whack it on. But yeah, it always just comes from like a little idea, and then it develops as and then I find my backstory is almost formed by the level 1 character, because you can sort of see the influences with the different skills and stuff like that you've got. And then you can use that as almost like a catalyst to create something around it.
Okay. That's really cool. Do you find there are classes that you find yourself coming back to, or classes you avoid?
I try to always be like, what haven't I played? Which is very little, although still to this day, I've never played a bard.
No, bards are great. Bards up there is one of my favourites.
Well, they are a fantastic support class if you want to talk about it in like actual like game terms. Stunning support class. But I always find if I want to do support, I go straight to cleric.
Okay.
Because I find clerics are just crazy powerful if you use them. Although I am that person that's played a cleric that has 0 healing spells. I have been that person a couple of times. Or a wizard without fireball or stuff like that. I do love to do little things like that. Although I did take Eldritch Blast with my warlock this time.
Yeah, but you have to. I'm playing my first warlock in a home game, and I tried not to because critical role, everyone does Eldritch Blast, and then looked through the options, and with my DM, we're just like, well, it is just the best though. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. Otherwise, building. It usually takes a while for me to, even like after playing the character attack once or twice, I'll still be figuring out where I want it to go, because I like it to not directly clash with whatever campaign or storyline we're doing, but I like it to be almost influenced slightly by the campaign that I'm in, so it almost makes it feel a lot more natural being in that story as well. Yeah.
Where did Jamie come from?
Jamie was a funny, well, it's because Niall's been going on this absolute mad one on the Shadowfell.
Yes,
quite a while. And he hasn't, because we work together now and then as well, and he just has been sort of talking my ear off about the Shadowfell for ages. And so I was just like, I'm going to look at all this Shadowfell malarkey. Had a little look, and then saw the Shadow Sorcerer, saw the Hexblade, and then we talked about my patron and what we wanted that to be and stuff like that. And I just went, yeah, okay, I'm going to just go like shadowy as fuck, and just picked all the spells I could find and influences and just created this thing. And then I wanted her to be this kind of creepy, lost soul with tons of shadowy magic that doesn't come from her. It's all like an influence on her from her patron, which was a little different for the sorcerer as well, which was quite nice to do. Instead of it being classically from inside, it's almost like given to her the entirety of her power to really make a very strong power vacuum between her and her patron.
Yeah, and you can feel that when we play, that there is something out of control. It's amazing. I wondered, when you first introduced Jamie to us in our session 0, if you thought about including a shadow monk. I know it's not as good a fit because you have the wisdom and the charisma, but you probably can't you could triple class, but it would be a bit of a mess.
Maybe. I did look at it. It was like one of the ones that sort of like sat out, but I wanted it to be a multi-class of something a little bit less, because I knew I wanted Hexblade, but I didn't want that to be the leading factor on her as a class.
Yeah.
And I think the Sorcerer worked really tastefully alongside the Pact Magic and stuff like that. And I think that's why I did it. But the Shadow Monk, I feel like on its own would be a really stunning build as well.
Yeah, I should clarify, this was not a recommendation. I do not multi-class. I've done it like once. I have played a Shadow Monk. I was like, ooh, shadows, did you think?
Yeah. No, it's super cool. But I think for this theme that I'd gone for, the idea of really pushing the magic side of it was a nice fit.
Yeah, I can't imagine Jamie with her lovely parasol then just charging up someone and punching them in the face. Yeah.
That was sort of like a stylized choice. I wanted it to come across as she is this really classically dressed, always keeping the shade off herself, because she doesn't come across immediately as a half drow because of her porcelain white skin and stuff like that. But I wanted her to really come across as this, like, you know, if you step within 5 feet, I'm going to step back because I don't want you near me. Kind of like very much, you know, I'm not going to ruin my nails if this happens. She's very obsessed about being in this perfect light, or not in the light, as we say with the parasol.
I'm so excited to see where she ends up by the end of this campaign. I can't work out which of the possible paths she's going to take.
Yeah, well, it's if you guys ever figure out / get what she sacrificed as well.
I will make a note of more things to ask Jamie about. Great. Good.
Yeah.
I reckon we have time for at least one more question, maybe two, depending on our waffling. Shall we see?
Let's try.
Doesn't mean I was going to say that doesn't mean we shouldn't waffle. We can waffle all the way. That was a 19.
Ooh,
I hope you didn't want any of the questions attached to the lower roll.
We've just stayed at the very top of the
I have ridiculous luck, and it's become a slight running joke with Roll Together and our lovely chat, and it's a little bit stupid at this point. Question 19. If you could go back and change an in-game decision, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. Oh, in-game decision. I'm assuming this slide is in context for
anything you like. Yeah.
Anything. Oh, yeah. I mean, I created an NPC that ended up uprooting the entire storyline because they just hated the character so much that they just hunted it around a castle for like an entire session. I feel like maybe I should rewrote that character.
What was wrong with that character?
Just the worst. Like, and he was supposed to be the worst, but he was really the worst. It was just this little gnome, bald-headed gnome called Softhead. That was basically the lapdog to this useless king, and it would run up and sit on his lap and just be stroked, hence the word Softhead. But he was just the worst. The way he spoke was annoying. Everything he did was annoying. He had
Can you give us a sample of his voice?
I don't know.
Has it been too long?
I'll do its laugh. It was like all the time.
Cool.
And imagine the rest. And it had little like cat flaps everywhere in the castle that led through little tiny tunnels everywhere, and it just scampered around and popped its nose out and said annoying things to them, and then disappeared into the castle some more. And it just got to the point where they just scrapped the game and started trying to crawl through the tunnels trying to find it.
I mean, you've told me about him for 30 seconds, and I already have sympathy with that decision. He sounds awful.
Yeah. And then he went on to shoot one of them.
Ah, fatally?
No.
Okay.
Luckily. It was a good roll, but which just really encouraged the hatred slightly more. But yeah, I feel like that really did, as funny as it was, there was true hate in the player's eyes. And swiftly wanted rid of him. So
how long did you make them chase around a castle?
They give up because the little like scurry holes that it had just made him very, very difficult to get hold of.
So they didn't even win in the end. They just wasted a session.
No. Pretty much. Because at the time, he was like quite important, but it was also like this some Scooby-Doo like chase through this building, running after them. They were running from different rooms as this little gnome would pop his head out from a hole and be like, nee, and then disappear off into another hole and do this and that. And they'd just be all chasing him around in different parts of the castle. So it was quite funny in the end, but he definitely was put to the side for a while.
Didn't come back. Is he going to turn out to be Is he going to turn out to be the big boss?
Yeah, the big bad, the true evil. Yeah, no, I'm going to use next. If I have the pleasure of playing another game with you guys, I'll bring him as my player character.
No. Oh no. I can't work out if that sounds absolutely incredible or like a nightmare. Possibly both.
I do truly believe I will get halfway through the first session and I will be accidentally disconnected.
Disconnected. I reckon the DM would just kill your player character.
If it was Niall, because Niall was one of the players as well.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Niall can be ruthless.
Yeah, and he won't accept that in the slightest.
Okay, I'm quite excited for that. For you to then unveil your other character for the 11 and a half other sessions. That'd be great. Shall we squeeze in one last question?
Yeah, let's throw another one on mine.
Brilliant. That is a... Why can't I read? That is a 13, and it's a slightly less anecdotal, more esoteric question, maybe. What did dice mean to you, Mike?
Dice go clickety-clackety. I'm a bit of a dice goblin. I don't have my dice with me. They've all got their own like chest that's full of hundreds of dice. But I've started to discover the stunning dice on like handmade ones on Etsy, made by these absolutely like beautiful home creators. And now I just want all of the gemstone dice and everything that comes with them. So that's my new problem.
Do you have a particular set you use for Jamie?
Jamie, actually, I've been a bit rubbish. I've been using the D&D app for the last couple of times because I left my nice dice at the bar I worked at by accident and forgot to go get them each time. But I will return back to manual dice because I much prefer it to digital. But I've got some really lovely metal ones that I do sort of find myself drawn towards a lot, but I'm really into gemstone dice, and I'm just like, we've got my partner, she got a load of tiger eye gemstone dice.
Oh, pretty.
Very lovely, and we're pretty sure they're weighted because they roll very high all the time.
Fair. You could, there must be ways of testing, or you could just roll with it.
Yeah, just accept that they're weighted and be like, do. Nobody can prove anything.
All of my dice are plastic and then one metal set. I can't bring myself to look at gemstone dice because, I want to be able to look at things again in my life rather than just be sucked down the pretty vortex forever.
Love it. I love anybody that takes something as simplistic as the dice and just turn them into absolutely stunning masterpieces of art, which is just really cool to see.
Well, you have been deeply succinct with pretty click-clack rocks. Shall we have even one more last question?
One more.
We're just going to keep doing this forever. And nice one to end on. 9. What would you say to a new player?
Just do the thing. You got an idea, do it. Like, what's the worst the DM's going to say? No. Like, don't panic about the little things. Like, if you've got a player on the table that is doing absolutely stunning RP, or if you've got a player that's like listing off rules like the back of their mind, don't worry about that. Play it exactly how you want to play, because DM is at the end. Playing is just at the end of the day for you, and to have fun with other people. So if you want to get better at stuff, then great, have a great time. Or if you feel like you need to get better, but just play exactly how you'd like to enjoy the game, with the consideration of everybody else. But like, you're there to have fun. Don't panic about not being to what I know a lot of people will listen to our show, other shows, and you will come across some incredibly talented people. Try never to compare yourself or your game to that, and just enjoy exactly what your game is. I think is always a nice one.
That is fantastic advice. Yeah, don't panic, have fun, do you. It's great. And with that very heartwarming and very good advice, I think that brings us pretty much to the end of our time together. Mike, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
No, I've got nothing really big going on at the moment, so I don't think there's anything to shout out.
Brilliant. Well then, thank you, Mike, so much for joining us and chatting D&D with me. It's been really lovely. And thank you, our beautiful audience, for coming and hanging out with us. If you enjoyed this, we hope you did. We stream talk together every Friday now from 6 till 7 GMT. And then we stream our D&D games every Monday and Tuesday, 6 till 9 GMT. On a Monday, you can see Mike and me playing Jamie and Veracity in Niall's campaign Into the Wastelands, the Eternal Army. And on Tuesdays, you can see our spectacular Second Warriors of Waterdeep campaign. Can recommend. It's very silly and very intense and a lot of fun. All of our shows stream at twitch.tv/rolltogetherrpg. There's a YouTube link that should be popping up in chat right now, thanks to our brilliant mods, where you can see all of our archive of back shows. And don't forget, you can also enjoy us as a podcast. Lastly, thank you again so much to our brilliant D20 Club on Patreon. Do check them out if you want to become a dice head. They are the best people. And thank you to all of our sponsors and supporters. And finally, stay classy at the table.